come va a tutti? Benvenuti al podcast di Small Lake City. Sono il vostro ospite, Eric Nielsen, e bentornati per un altro episodio. Hopefully that gives you a little foreshadowing of what you're in for today's episode. But excited to share with you today a guest that we've talked about a couple times on the podcast so far, for sure with Corinne Benoit of Yelp. I mean, just use an example from here. I went to dinner on Sunday with a friend to Matteo's.
Oh, I haven't been there yet. Have you been before, or was it your first?
No, this is my first time.
Oh, I'm so excited to go.
And also with Tanner Leonard, the liquor lawyer. If you could have someone on the Small Lake City podcast, who would you want to have hear their story?
Oh, I guess probably. I mean, I'll go Matteo. I'll go say, yeah, sit him down and see. I'm gonna take the easy way out.
And if you haven't put it together yet, the guest today is Matteo Sogne, the founder of the newest, latest, and greatest Italian restaurant in Salt Lake City, named after himself, Matteo. Not only is his restaurant amazing, but the story of how he got there is even more inspiring, from being born and raised in Italy to moving to the U.S. for college and swimming, and the story of getting the restaurant off the ground and the vision of what he has for the future. So sit back and enjoy the story from Matteo, and hope you enjoy. So there's people that when I started the podcast, I knew that I wanted to have on that I knew. But then there's this whole wave of people that I either got introduced to or got exposed to, and I was like, this is someone I need to hear their story. I want to get to know them better. And you were number one on the list. So, I mean, as we've talked about and connected over, I mean, and I've brought up on the podcast actually probably 2 or 3 times now, but I remember I'd heard of your restaurant, and for me, I love Italian food, but my biggest problem with Italian food is inauthentic Italian food and low quality Italian food. Because if I go get food at a restaurant, especially let's call it high quality Italian restaurant, I have expectations. And if I walk out feeling like I could have made that at home, I don't want to pay $30 for that.
Absolutely.
And so when I was going to dinner with one of my friends, Maddie, and I was like, I really just want to go to a nice dinner. I haven't gone to a nice dinner in a while. I've heard of Matteo's. I really want to go. And so we go, and I was kind of speculative at first. I was like, all right, let's see how this is. And exceeded all my expectations. The authenticity is palpable. The staff is amazing. The menu is phenomenal, and all from your family recipes and everything that's been passed down and bring on to here. So I'm so excited to have you here and hear from, your mouth, all the story of how it came to be and what's to look forward to. So thank you so much for joining, and excited to hear the story.
Thank you for having me. It's very exciting.
Totally. And again, going back to the authenticity of things, everything is as good as it could be. Because, obviously born and raised in Italy, kind of want to start there. What part of Italy were you from, and what was, early childhood like?
I was born and raised in Modena. Modena is the town, whenever you go to the store, you see balsamic vinegar of Modena.
Yeah.
So I like to call it land of slow foods and fast cars. Because all Italian fast cars are made there.
Yeah.
Ferrari, Maserati, Lamborghini, Pagani, Bugatti, they're all made within a 20-mile radius. And all the slow foods are from there as well. Balsamic vinegar, Parmesan cheese, Bolognese sauce. All those things are made in Modena. So I was born and raised there.
You were primarily raised by your grandparents, right?
Yeah. Well, in Italy, a lot of people work from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. And so my first 9.5 years, I was spending a lot of times with my grandparents because I used to go to bed early. So I saw my parents, maybe couple hours a day, and of course during the weekends, but I spent a lot of time with my grandparents, and I had the luck that my parents, when I was a little kid, we didn't have much money, so we just built our house in my grandparents' backyard.
It works.
And so I was born and raised maybe 40 feet away from my grandparents' backyard, and so I inherited a lot of their culture, a lot of their experience, and I just love to sit down and listen to people.
Yeah.
And so I just had my grandpa tell me stories about everything. And my grandpa is one of the most fascinating people I know. And he tells me a story about everything, from how he started smoking when he was 4.5 years old to everything else. So yeah, I was raised when I was little by my grandparents. And my first memories is my grandma's chasing me around with a 5-foot rolling pin around the kitchen because I was just, not the most behaved guy. And so, yeah. That's when I was very young. And then, growing older, I learned how to cherish and spend more time with my parents.
Yeah.
And so, we have a beautiful relationship. They moved here to help me out with the restaurant. So, yeah.
Oh, because I love that. Like, one of my favorite things about Italian culture is like two things that kind of pair together is family, obviously, because you're sharing such a communal space, which is very common in Italy, and like to the detriment, like in COVID, the reason why it was so rampant so fast is because there's multi-generations in different households. But then also that family is so centered around food. And I believe it was like obviously it's family recipes that got passed down, but it sounds like it was your grandma that really inspired you. For going back to your fast cars and slow food, your grandma was the one that taught you about the slow food, and your grandfather was the one that taught you about the fast cars.
Absolutely, yep. And the whole reason we opened up the restaurant is because we wanted to bring joy and togetherness. That's the whole reason to open up the restaurant. When I was a kid growing up, we had this thing that I looked forward to the whole week. It was our Sunday lunch. Sunday lunch was the thing to me that brought me joy and togetherness, because Sunday lunch, we all went to my grandma's house, 12:30. You knew that food was ready, and the whole family was getting together. It was a 2-3 hour lunch, stories, sharing, and you feel good, you know? So that's the reason we opened up the restaurant. And fun fact, if you go on joyandtogetherness.com, it redirects you to our website.
I love that.
Just a little nerdy things. But yeah, I just wanted to bring joy and togetherness to Salt Lake City. And I think as a restaurant owner now, but restaurants in general, our mission is we're in the people business. We're not in the food business.
Yes.
Food, of course, is part of it. But I wanted to recreate that feeling. When you walk into your grandma's house, when you spend time with your family, and bringing up Will Guidara, which is one of my favorite authors, fine dining is not about the check. It's not about anything else. It's about, if you and me go to dinner, I want to leave feeling like I know you a little bit better. Regardless if it's our first date or our 50th wedding anniversary, I want to feel like I walk out of dinner feeling like I know you a little bit better. And that's how every Sunday lunch was on my family. I felt like I walk out of that lunch, I know everyone else at that table a little bit better. I know that story about them. I know that experience about them. And that's what I want to recreate.
That's so awesome. Because, I mean, and it's such like the authentic way to, because like I'm a big believer in food and bringing people together and eating. And like my grandmother actually was the person who was always the cook, the one that brought people together, was always at grandma's house. I mean, she grew up in like rural Utah and a lot of just traditional American food, but she inspired so many people. I mean, I was telling you as we were walking in that I have a cousin who lives up in Willamette Valley that's a chef, has been chef for 15, probably 20 years now. And that's one thing I love about going and visiting him. It's we sit down. He's like, it's either he's already cooking or we show up at a restaurant and he steals the menu from me and says, don't worry, like I've got this. And it's perfect. And like to your exact point, I mean, that's what brings people together. That's what brings people closer, is having one of the most basic, but yet most intimate human experiences of eating food together and breaking bread.
Yeah.
Like that's how people are brought together. And like, I hate, like one of my biggest pet peeves with people sometimes is when like you go out to eat and it's like a race. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, cool. So let's get our order in now so we can do this. Like, and then I'm like, whoa, like slow down. Like yeah. I'm here to spend time with you, not just like check off an item on the list of getting food.
That was one of the hardest experiences I had when I moved to the US, because back home, I'm used to, sit down and enjoy a good meal, To me, dinner can be like hour and a half, 2 hours on a Tuesday, because you just sit down and talk to people. Now, when I moved here, I just saw people that were like, most of the house I went to barely even had a table. Yeah. So it's like, a lot of people, like, to me, the thing that blew my mind in college is a lot of people eat their dinner in their bed. And to me, I'm like, there was such a big cultural change.
Yeah.
I'm like, I think if I could help bring in that joy and togetherness of breaking bread together, of sitting down, let's leave everything outside of the restaurant. Here, we're just in this little bubble and we just want to enjoy ourselves, wind down for a second, enjoy a good meal. And then when you walk out, it's fine.
Yeah.
But that, as you said, is one of the most intimate experiences that you can share with anyone. And it's, yeah.
And I think Italians are some of the best people, have mastered that, of slowing down, pausing life, and just really getting together and connecting over that.
Italian and Japanese, yes.
Yeah, ooh, yeah, true. Good call. So I know that, cars are your passion. I mean, obviously you're wearing a Martini Racing sweatshirt, so I imagine a big F1 fan. I mean,
unfortunately, yes. Given how Ferrari's been doing, I gotta say, unfortunately, yes.
I wasn't gonna mention it, but I'm so sorry for that.
Yeah, it's all good.
So you have your passion about your cars, your grandma and family. I mean, you have this great experience around cooking, but then I also know that swimming was another passion of yours as well. Yeah. I mean, how did you get introduced to that, and how did that take off?
Oh, it was funny because when I was a little kid, I was afraid of water on my face. So until I was like 6 years old, I had to shower with a towel on my face because I couldn't stand water on my face.
Interesting.
And then when I was 7 years old, I blew up my elbow. And I was playing goalie in soccer, and of course that's out the window.
Yeah, can't do that
and the doctor is like, well, the only way you have to rehab is to swim. And I was like, gosh, really, among all the sports I could do, swimming is the only one I hate. And so they threw me in the pool, and I'm determined. So I'm like, you know what? I want to have a normal elbow, so I got to start swimming. And I realized I actually quite enjoy it after you pass the fear of water on your face. Yes. I quite still enjoy it. And I was okay at it. I was never good. And then when I was like 15, I think, I mean, up until I was 14th, if it was a race for 8 people, I'll probably get 9th. Like, I was that bad. And then when I was 15th, one of my coaches was like, yeah, you know, we got to split groups. And all my friends were in the good group, and I was in the one with not very good people.
Can I go with my friends? Like,
yeah.
No.
So I'm like, okay, you know what? I actually got to try, and I actually got to get my stuff together. Because I wanted to be with my friends, not because I wanted to be good.
Yeah, I want to be in this lane.
Yeah,
over here.
Exactly. So I actually started trying, and within a year, I got 3rd at Italian championships.
Wow.
And so I was like, okay, I like it.
What was your event?
I swim distance freestyle.
Oh, wow.
I actually still have the records across Bear Lake, side to side.
No
7
way.
miles, yeah.
We're going to come back to that.
Yeah. But yeah, so I was a miler, and then in 2015, I broke my nose, so I didn't have the chance to even try for the Olympics.
Oh.
And I was like, you know what? I want to try to go to Tokyo, but I'm not going to stay in Italy because I tried to do university and swimming in Italy, and it's impossible. Like, I had to drive 45 minutes from practice to school and back.
Yeah, that doesn't help.
Because swimming, you swim twice a day. So I swam 6 to 8 in the morning. I got breakfast in my car, and then I went to university from 9 to like 1:30. I ate lunch in my car on the way back, and I was swimming again from 2:30 to 5, and then lifting after.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, there's not
this doesn't
a chance I'm gonna do it. And so I had a couple of friends that were swimming in America, University of Arizona in Tucson, and I was like, you know what? I want to give it a chance. So I sent an email like out of the blue to like 70 schools. I'm like, hey, these are my times.
If you're interested, respond with a scholarship, preferably, and we'll go from there.
And so I got a few emails back, and one of them was from Utah, to which I committed in November, and I came on my recruiting trip in February. So if I didn't like it, I can't really do anything about it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's how my very, very short. That's how my swimming career was, and then I swam for 4 years. When I graduated in 2020, I won the title of Student Athlete of the Year, which is the male athlete with the highest GPA.
Congrats.
Thank you.
Huge accomplishment.
And I just really enjoyed swimming, and I happen to be not very fast, but I never got tired.
Get fast at it. Yeah.
Well, I never got tired, so I just can swim for a long time. I'm still not very fast, but
But you can endure better than you're the tortoise, not the hare.
Yep.
That's so awesome. So you're going to the U. When you were applying to these schools, was Utah like middle of the list, top of the list, bottom of the list?
I mean, I didn't even know Utah existed, honestly.
I'd be
so Utah was off
did.
the list. Was not even on the list. Because I started, from all the big schools, as in Italy, New York and California.
Of course.
I started from Columbia, New York. I started from Cal Berkeley. I started from Stanford and blah, blah. I started from all the Ivy League. And then I realized Ivy League doesn't have any sports scholarships. So I'm like, okay, that's out the window. And I had an offer from Columbia, actually, in New York. And I went there on my recruiting trip. On the third day, I'm like, I got to go to Central Park, man. I got to breathe. I can't do this.
Very
And so, I just ended up picking among like 20 schools. And Utah was the best overall deal, not money-wise, because I had a lot more money offered in basically 90% of all the other schools.
Mm-hmm.
But among the culture, among the economics, among, you drive 10 minutes from campus, you're in the middle of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very thankful I made that choice because I still love it very much here.
Yeah.
And
it's even to the point where you moved your entire family here just so that they could be here and help support.
Yep.
And that's so tell me about this Bear Lake story. I didn't know about this. What inspired you to want to beat the time of across Bear Lake and back?
Bear Lake Monster Swim. And it was 2019. I was my last summer actually swimming. And I've had people talk all the time about Bear Lake, and there's this monster swim. It's very cold water, blah, blah. And there's very few people that do it without a wetsuit because, I mean, water in the middle was like 61 degrees, which is very pretty cold. And you got to stay in that water for 2 hours. So I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'll do it. And so I just wanted to prove to myself I can do it. And I made a huge mistake. The guy that was kayaking for me has a titanium elbow, so I never considered the fact that he was not going to go straight. So instead of swimming 6 miles, we swam like 7.5. And that guy still happens to be our chef. So
so it didn't feel too bad.
It was fine. I just, endured the pain an extra 20 minutes. But so I just basically randomly came across it. And I was like, I just really enjoy swimming open water. The guy that sets up the whole event reached out and was like, I would love to have you over. And I was like, yeah, sure. I'll come and swim. I have fun. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it sounds like a fun race.
It's very fun. You just go side to side. It's one of the very few open water races where you actually go side to side, which feels really good, especially when you're in the middle of nowhere. It's so quiet,
so peaceful. Nothing.
And so,
no one bumping into you in a swim lane.
Nope.
That's awesome.
That's one thing I love about open water. You're free. It's like the closest thing to flying because you don't see the bottom. You just are free. You're in the middle of nowhere just by yourself.
Yeah. And so I'm also curious too, because I believe you studied math and economics at the U.
Yes.
And so, I mean, what was that? Because I just think of like all of this cooking, this food. It was very like, let's call it, not very quantitative, not very numerical, very, let's call it artistic for lack of a better term. Yeah. What drove you to want to study math and economics?
I've never been very good at English. I've never been good at Italian either. I'm the guy that if you put me in front of a piece of blank paper and say, write down something, I write down 3 sentences, then I'm done. Yeah. So even back home, I was always good at math. I did the Olympics of math. I always did the fun stuff with math. Cool. And I believe math is the most noble science, meaning that teaches you how to solve problems that you don't know how to solve, bring it back to something you know how to solve. And that's the most beautiful part about math. It teaches you a mindset, which is the same thing as swimming, which is the same thing as everything. It teaches you a mindset. Yes. It doesn't teach you any skill because you don't know any skill. Like realistically, when you graduate math, you have no skills. Like, when you study medicine or when you go to med school or when you become a lawyer, you have a lot of skills, right? Totally. Math teaches you no skills because you cannot apply any of the skills in real life. But it teaches you the best skill, which is to solve problems. Yes. And so that's what I always fascinated so much about math, that to get from A to B, you have many different ways, and they're all right. Yeah. It just, for some people, you take this route. So for some other people, you got to take the other. And that's why a lot of people don't love math, because the way math is taught, it's just to go from A to B, you got to take this route, right? Yep. But it's not. No. And so that's what always fascinated me about math. And economics, I just like to understand what's going on around me.
Yeah, it's kind of like, it's also kind of like an applied math almost. Yeah, because I'm a very math-minded person. Like, I've been the same thing. I did like the math Olympics they used to have up on University of Utah campus when I was in grade school. I was in like all the advanced class. I was just math nerd. Yeah, like, absolutely. And because and I totally agree. Like, it always bothers me when people are like, "Oh, I never have used the Pythagorean theorem in my life. I've never used this." I'm like, right, but there's this like problem solving, critical thinking, and like I was talking to someone at work the other day, and someone was like, "Oh, do you remember proofs of like just like math proofs?" And I was like, "Yeah." I'm like, actually, in hindsight, like those help me a lot. Like, be able, like, even in my work today, like if I have to prove something, like those exercises maybe like, okay, cool. So start here. This is what we do. This is what we do. This is why we do this. This is how we get there. Check all my steps, documented it all. Any questions?
Well, that's exactly what math teaches you. To have, the Pythagorean theorem teaches you how to solve second grade equation. And then second grade equation teaches you how to apply to something else. And then you're basically building a wall, but you need to consolidate that brick in order to put the next brick, right? And that's what math is, and that's what real life is. Like in your work, you're like, hey, how do you put the roof on a house? Well, you got to start from here to here to here to here, right? And so that's what math does.
Yeah. And a lot of people get so impatient. They're like, I just want the roof. Give me the roof. How do we get to the roof? You're like, you got to appreciate the roof and you got to get through the foundation and the walls and the ceiling first.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're studying math and economics, and so you graduate in 2020, if I'm doing that right?
Yeah.
And I mean, at this point, was the restaurant on your radar, or what were your plans at this point?
I was doing math for 4 years, and I was doing research as well. And then I was working in restaurants at night every now and then, just helping out friends, because I've been in restaurant business since I'm like 3 years old. In 2019, my mom and my dad and everyone were like, hey, you know, what are you going to do after college? I'm like, well, I think I want to open up a restaurant because that's my true passion. That's what I really enjoy doing. And Salt Lake and Utah need some sort of good restaurant, right?
Always.
And we had a total different idea in mind, which is still at some point going to happen. Yeah, so end of 2019, we start looking at the space because I'm like, okay, well, you know, I'm going to graduate May 2020. You know, to build out a space takes 6 to 8 months. So, you know, end of 2019, we start looking at places. And then for a reason or another, it always got pushed back. And then we reach, you know, January 2020. And we have a couple places that were in the final steps of negotiating a contract, which I'm not going to mention names, but they're both very, very successful restaurants now.
Cool.
Yeah, January 2020, we started to do that. And then we were supposed to close on one of them, like in 3 days. And then I get a phone call from my mom in Italy, and she's like, hey, I just wanted to let you know we have this thing called COVID here. It's like starting to get spread and stuff. I don't know, like what should happen or something. I think it was late January or early February.
Yeah, it's like calm before the storm.
Yeah, and she was like, you might want to wait, try to like take a week or two, because she's like, this might be like just some regular flu stuff that nobody cares about in like 2 weeks, or it can be something huge. So she's like, you might want to wait a week or two. I'm like, okay, you know what? Good call.
Wise mother.
Yeah. And so I end up taking my time. So we lose one of the buildings, which ended up becoming Ivy and Varley.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Which is absolutely amazing. I love to eat there now. And, you know, we keep going, and late February happens. I'm like, okay, no, this thing is bad.
Yeah.
And early March, my dad comes to the States because it was my final race, Pac-12, 2020.
Okay.
So March 6th, I believe, 2020, in King County.
Yeah.
King County, Washington. Yep.
Just everything's aligning to be the worst place to be at the worst time.
Exactly. And so
I imagine it's up at UW, right? Or University of Washington? Yeah, okay.
Yeah. It's Martin Luther King Center, Aquatic Center. It's in Tacoma. It's not.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's
okay.
not UW. And my dad travels here to watch my last race. He shows up with a mask, gloves, and everything, because Italy was bad.
Yeah.
In America, nobody cares.
Yeah.
He didn't shake anyone's hands, and everyone thought he was crazy. And next thing you know, like 2 days later, they shut down the border. So my dad is stuck here for like 3 months in my apartment. And after that, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take a little bit of time to just master my craft, because I think I'm okay at it, but I want to take a few times to understand really how it's done, to travel, to spend more time.
Yeah. Well, it's like, I like that too, because I like that with your swimming, you weren't good at it at the beginning and you really had to work at it. And even if it was just motivated to be in the same lane as your friends, I love that with your craft of cooking, you had that same approach. You're like, hey, I'm good. I've done this. Like I spent so much time in the kitchen with my grandma and my mom and my other family. I've worked at restaurants, but like, I still feel like there's more to learn. I'm going to go push myself and grow more.
I agree. And one thing swimming taught me is that worry about you can control and don't worry about what you cannot control, right? The only thing you can control is how hard you're working, how smart you're working, how dedicated you are. And I can tell you I'm not going to be the most talented person. And I know I'm not, but I can be the hardest working. And that's what I do about, like our staff always gives me a hard time because they're like, when are you going to take a day off? I'm like, Christmas Day.
Yeah.
Because that's the day the restaurant is closed.
Because no one's coming in here. Yeah.
Yep. Because otherwise I don't need days off. Like I don't even have a TV in my house. I haven't had a TV in 7 years.
Yeah.
Because I don't know.
I got stuff to do. Yeah. No time to sit down and do it.
I just learn how to be a go-getter, you know, if you want to say in the slang.
Yeah. No, I mean, I totally get it. I mean, especially when it's your own venture, your own, passion, it's you or nothing. Like it's either you're going to do it or no one else is.
Well, my dad was in the special forces of the army back home for a few years. And he taught me since I was a kid, he always raised me with the mindset, number one or no one. Like if you do something, you do it well.
Yeah.
And you take pride in there. Otherwise, you don't waste your time.
Yeah.
Use that time on something that you really and genuinely truly believe in.
Yeah. And especially with food, just to be so dedicated to that craft and wanting to be the best, wanting to own your craft even more. And I mean, spoiler, it worked, like did very well. You decide you're going to take some time and go back to Italy. I mean, what were you learning? I mean, what were you spending time doing to try to, further your craft?
During COVID?
Yeah.
During COVID, I was teaching cooking classes.
Oh, that's right. You were doing them like on Zoom. And
I was doing Zoom cooking classes for OSHA, which is the University of Utah Continuing Education, so older people.
Cool.
And I wasn't charging for it because I'm like, I really don't care. I got to make lunch anyway. So
exactly.
well.
If you guys want to watch, you can.
Yeah. I also started working in restaurants full time. On the side, I did a lot of education.
Cool.
Like wine education, and I also did...
Because you became a sommelier. Is this during when you became a sommelier?
No, I did the sommelier certification in Italy from 2015 to 2016. I took a
Is that just
year
like
off.
part of like normal Italian, like you go to grade school, you go to high school, you become a sommelier, and then you just go into society?
Not really, but a lot of people like to enjoy a nice glass of wine. Okay. And I figured that, in Europe we have an extra year of high school. And then 2015 to 2016, I tried to take an Olympic year. So I tried to focus to make the Olympics in 2016.
Got it.
But at the same time, I wasn't going to school in the morning. I wasn't going to college because there's no way I can focus on both. But I wanted to still do something and learn something, be active about something. And restaurants always been my passion. I figured that the part I was knowing the least was the spirits aspect, wine, spirits, and everything. So I was like, I want to invest into something that I don't know. So it keeps my brain active. And so that's why I start to study for wine.
Yeah.
And then after that, I just truly enjoy it. And I have a lot of friends in Tuscany and Piedmont that make wine. So I go
Good
home.
friends to have.
Yeah, great friends to have. And I go home twice a year. I go to Tuscany in the fall to try the new vintages. And, somebody's got to do it.
I know.
It's a socially acceptable way of having some fun. And in the spring, I go to Piedmont. And they're just beautiful.
That's like one of my favorite. Like I was mentioning this to you as well about my cousin who lives in Willamette Valley. I mean, grow great Pinots, grow great Chards. He's a chef, but like because he's a chef, he orders all of the wine from all the best wineries there. And so we'll go wine tasting, and it's like the red carpet gets rolled out here. Do you want to try this vintage? And I'm just like sitting there, just so like beaming from ear to ear, just so happy to be included.
Yeah. That happened to me in March. I went to Napa because my best friend here. He was taking the third level sommelier, and he's the food beverage director of a very prestigious golf club in Park City. I cannot mention names because I don't want to get anyone in trouble. Yeah. But basically, they had everything paid for, and they set up all these very cool tastings. So he's like, I got a couple wineries set up, and he wouldn't tell me the names. I'm like, okay, I'm just a passenger. Like,
I'm along for the ride.
I mean, I paid $12 for the whole trip. Like, I got a Delta credit card, so I just literally paid $12 for 4 days in Napa. I'm like, you know what? Can't get worse.
Yeah.
So first winery, we roll in. We land to San Francisco. We roll in. We go to Opus One. And we pass through the tasting room. I'm like, that's what I thought. We're not going to taste Opus One. I mean, come on.
We can't do this.
Yeah, you can't start from Opus One.
Room. Yeah.
And they were like, let me take you downstairs to the barrique room and to the private cellar. And dude shows us like a bunch of unicorns. And then he opened like in 2002, 2007. We ended up tasting like 6 or 7 different wines. It was just mind blowing. I'm like, okay, this is the first one, so it's hard to beat. And
just
then
expectations changed immediately. Yeah. You're like, I thought we were just kind of hanging out and going to Napa, and now it turns out it's the white glove treatment.
Yep. And then I've always been like kind of like Italian wine guy. If you come to a restaurant, we only have Italian wines except for sparkling and dessert. And then I had to really rechange my plans because there are some really, really, really good wines in Napa, and would never know.
Sometimes you learn and you develop and you change.
Yep.
I'm sure that was a mental grapple for you to be like, wait, it's not Italian wine, but I like this.
Yeah.
What am I going to do?
I mean, what can I say? It was a very tough 3 days.
I'm so glad that you survived and got through that.
Barely.
So you're going through COVID, you're working, you're learning. At what point do you start thinking, okay, it's time to rethink the restaurant, COVID's going away?
I was working in a restaurant before, to which I hoped to become part owner, or at least to be involved into the growth project. And that was my kind of soft shoe-in. And then when I realized that those plans were maybe going to happen, maybe not, I was like, you know what? I think it's time for me to at least start doing something by myself, because I'm 27. If I don't do it now, I don't know. I mean, now I don't mind working when I'm working because I got nothing else to do. I mean, it's me and two bunnies. I mean, I really don't care. But if you start to have a family and everything, it's a little bit more challenging to put in the 80, 100 hours a week.
Yeah, a lot more responsibilities.
So, it's the opportunity cost.
Yep.
So talking about economics. So yeah, for me, it was just, I want to start it now. And also my family was like, I think we're ready to make the big jump. Because I mean, if you think about it, they're 60. Like my dad is 62, my mom is 57.
Huge change.
Like we have a pretty decent house in Italy, and then now, moving all the way across to the States.
To a state they don't know it even exists.
Yeah. No, well, they were here
they
a
do
lot of
now,
times. Yeah, but up till 2016, nobody knew existed. I mean, Utah, I just knew the Utah Jazz because I watched the NBA, but that's about it. And so, yeah, it was just pretty big jump. So I'm like, if we don't do it now, my parents are going to get older and everything. So that's why I started to realize. And then I used to have smoothies at this place, Pulp, all the time. And then it became a scent. And then one day they closed. I was like, might as well,
And it's such like a great location. I mean, you're across the street from Manoli's. I mean, Liberty Park's right there. And like that whole like Central 9th area. I mean, just along 9th all the way from, almost like, I'm not like not 7th East, but like 5th East.
Yeah.
All the way to like almost Main or State. Like there's so many cool things going on. I mean, like Chubby Baker, who we've had on the podcast, even Cam Nance with Bespoke had his store there. I mean, so many cool things happening that, where if downtown's becoming a little bit more expensive or other places aren't necessarily like where you want or the space that you kind of need, I think it's become a great place for people to kind of have a little bit less of a barrier to get into.
And I feel it's very nice because it gives you time, it gives you the space to breathe. You know, you have parking. It still feels like human sized. It doesn't really feel like, downtown. I love a lot of restaurants downtown. I mean, whenever I go out to eat, I probably 90% of the times I go to Takashi. I love Takashi and Tamara.
I love
They're
Takashi.
just so nice. And they're downtown. But what I love about where we're at is that it feels a little bit more human sized. It feels a little bit, you can just come have a nice appetizer on the patio and then move on with your day, right? That's one big part about the location I think is great. And also 9 South from Tsunami on 11th East all the way down to the Granary District is just becoming a restaurant row. I'm excited for how it's going to look in 5 years because I believe there's a lot of very, very talented people doing something very unique there.
Yeah, and I think Salt Lake is starting to mature in that we do want like good food. We don't need more fast casual restaurants. We don't need more strip malls. We don't need chains. Like we want quality, authentic food and experiences
I agree.
to bring us together. And we've thankfully seen that. And like, unfortunately, like COVID made a lot of restaurants close. And I hate to say like the good side of it is we're replacing those with a lot better restaurants. Which, I'm a big fan of. I like eating good food. I like having places to go with friends and have these great experiences. Absolutely. And so when you find the spot, you love the location. Cause I agree. Like parking's easy. It feels very like communal. Like it feels like it's part of the neighborhood opposed to like, here's a restaurant downtown. Not saying anything's either right or wrong, just very different feels. Yeah. And so as you're planning this, did you always know that you were going to use a lot of your family recipes on the menu, or how was building that menu?
Oh, I got to take you back 5 years to that. I've always been a little debated about what to do. Mm-hmm. But if you go back 5 years, I was in France. Okay. I was dating this girl and my birthday is May 10th. Her birthday was May 8th.
Oh, interesting.
So I was like, let's just have a couple of fun weeks around Europe, just drive around and, whenever you're going to be able to do it again. Yeah. And so I like to eat good food. So on her birthday, we eat at this 3 Michelin star restaurant. It's called Le Clos de Sang. Mm. It's in Annecy. It's right by Switzerland, in France. Mm. It's in the Alps, right by Switzerland. And this guy only has vegetarian dishes.
Interesting.
With the only thing he uses is local fish from one of the 3 lakes right by it. And that's super futuristic. Yeah. Like you almost feel in another dimension. It's super, super new. And then 2 days later, for my birthday, we go to Paul Bocuse. Paul Bocuse is probably the oldest restaurant you can ever step in. He was named Chef of the Century last year, for the last century. And it's just a very, timeless cuisine. They have just the best ingredients cooked in the best possible way, very traditionally. And so in those 2 days, I got exposed to both sides of the spectrum. And I came to the realization, it's like, if you want to be successful, you got to pick a path, which is either I make something very traditional, but very, 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 very well. Or I make something new and I keep changing it to keep people entertained.
That's a hard fork in the road.
It's a huge fork. Because, I mean, if you look at it, 95% of the successful restaurants are either one or the other.
That's interesting.
Because
it's either like fusion, futuristic, very forward, or here's a timeless classic that you have this nostalgia about,
absolutely,
and we're going to master it.
Absolutely. And I think if you ask any chef, they'll tell you have two ways to make a restaurant successful. One is you have really good ingredients, you keep it classy, you keep it simple, and every day you perfection your craft, which is what 99% of the sushi restaurants do. Jiro dreams of sushi. Dude has spent like 80 years of his life mastering sushi, and he's been doing the same recipes for 80 years.
Yeah.
Or super futuristic restaurants, taking you back to my hometown, Modena, Massimo Bottura, Osteria Francescana. He won best restaurant in the world, I think 2 or 3 times. And he changes the menu every 6 months. And he always has very new dishes, like very crazy stuff. So I face this road and I'm like, I think Italian food at the end of the day is passion. It's about how it makes you feel. So for us, I just want to go down the traditional route. And I'm like, Italian food has been the same way for 150 years. And who am I to try to reinvent the wheel?
Yeah.
So I have a wonderful relationship with our chef. We have worked together for the last, I think, 6 years. He's one of my best friends. We lived together for a couple of years.
Love that.
And so we understand each other without even talking. And so we just came up with a very traditional menu, but with a couple of fun twists. And the fun twists are something like a puttanata on our menu. If anyone speaks Italian, they're laughing now. It's a kind of revisited puttanesca. Puttanesca is just a traditional pasta with tomatoes, olives, capers, anchovies. It's very flavorful, but it's delicious. And then we start talking. And he's like, well, I don't want to put in the capers because people don't love them and it feels weird. I was like, okay, cool. So, but also anchovies are too savory, so I'm not going to put them in. I was like, okay, sure. And he's like, I'm going to put in andouille. Andouille, it's a spicy sausage. And he adds a couple more twists. I'm like, dude, that's not a puttanesca, that's a puttanata. Which puttanata translates into messy stuff. When you screw up something, like, oh shoot, I made a puttanata.
Okay.
I made a big mess, right?
Got it.
So I told him, no, dude, that's just a big mess. It's not a pasta. Like, no, trust me, it's going to be delicious. I'm like, oh, okay, sure. He's like, okay, I'll make it for you. If it's delicious, we put it on the menu and you call it puttanata. I'm like, yeah, sure. It's not going to taste even good.
It's not going to get there, but whatever.
Yeah. And he makes them like, damn, this is probably the most delicious pasta
shit,
I've ever had.
Going on the menu now.
Yep. I'm like, yep, that's right there on the menu. And so I put it on the menu, call it puttanata.
That's so awesome.
So for us, I believe if you look at our dishes, I think the one that has the most ingredients probably is 6 ingredients.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to source the
simple
best ingredients I can find. To find the Parmesan cheese that we use now, it took me over 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And my grandpa worked for Parmigiano Reggiano. There's a co-op called Consorzio. It's a consortium. And he worked for them.
Oh, interesting.
And so growing up in that area, one of my mom's best friends is one of the 3 people that are kind of like the master sommelier of Parmesan cheese. So he hammers the wheel. And he tells you what's wrong with it.
Yeah.
By the way, he's coming to Salt Lake in March for 2 weeks. So it's going to be really fun.
Noted.
It's going to be really interesting. And by the way, that's the first time I ever announced that. So
there we go. Coming in March.
And yeah. So he hammers the cheese and he picks the best wheels from the best little dairy farm that makes Parmigiano Reggiano. It's number 168. And they are the only dairy farm in Italy that has ever won the Super Gold at the World Cheese Award, which is the best cheese on the table.
Yeah.
For twice.
Really? Wow.
And then they had to change the rules, otherwise they were going to keep winning. And so we're the only restaurant in the US that carries number 168. And it gets picked in Italy for us, and I'm extremely proud of it. It was not easy to make it happen, but to me, that's something that really
you just can't sacrifice. Because if you're gonna go the traditional route, you have to have the best ingredients, bar nothing. You can't say, okay, well, I guess we're gonna have to make sacrifice to do this, or else I think you're just kind of going against your values of a chef.
Quoting the bear, sharp corners, right? Sharp angles. What was the quote? Yeah, cannot cut the corner. Gotta. Everything counts, details matter. And so I believe, it takes me a long time before we put something on the menu because I want to make sure it's up to our standards. Because really,
it's like your dad said, it's got to be number 1 or none.
If you have 4 or 5 ingredients, it's, you taste them all. So you cannot take any shortcut. You cannot do anything wrong. Totally. Otherwise, you taste it and it's not as good.
Yeah. And then the experience is lost, and it's hard to come back from. And it's like your dad was saying, is one or none. Like if I'm going to put something out that has my name on it, it has to be amazing.
Absolutely.
And I'm not going to sacrifice anything for that.
Yeah. And that's why I wanted to put my name on the building, because I'm like, I'm going to put my face on it because I feel it's that good that I can put my name on it, because I believe in it that much.
Yeah. Your own stamp of approval. And it's like, I love that story with the putanata. I've been twice now. Got the ragu lasagna, got the bolognese, which I always get. And absolutely, and I know they like those are like your is it the ragu that's your grandma's recipe? Both, of course.
The lasagna and the bolognese are my grandma's recipe, and I cherish it very dearly. It's she passed away just a few months ago, so she didn't see me open the restaurant. But it's very something that to me means a lot to be able to have her recipes. And so when we bring the check, we have our check presenter is a postcard, because joint togetherness, right?
Of course.
We have 4. We just made 4 for now, which I have family pictures on it. Yeah. 3 of them have family pictures. One of them has my grandma's recipe for tortellini, because it's something that to me is, if you look at my keys, I have a tortellini as a keychain.
Oh, that's amazing.
Because to me, that's, if I close my eyes and think of home, that's the one flavor that I feel. And so I wanted to share that with Salt Lake City, so I put that on the check presenter.
That's so fun.
And the bolognese and the lasagna both are my grandma's recipe, and lasagna was the Sunday lunch, so those are both dishes that are very dear to me. So if anyone come to a restaurant and ask me what should I get, those are the ones I tell them.
And I can agree, phenomenal. I only want Italian food that's authentic and quality, and don't want to have something that I can eat or buy something that I could have made at home. And I usually always go towards lasagna or bolognese if I go to any Italian restaurant. So if I sit down at your restaurant and they're like, oh yeah, that's what we recommend. I'm like, oh shit, I got to pick. And so it's funny because like I went the first time and I got the bolognese and I was like, this is amazing. And then the second time actually, I went back and it was I went on a date actually, and like she prepared everything. It was really nice of her. And she's like, I got a reservation in Matteo. And that was, so on Sunday I was there with Maddie, my friend. And then on Saturday was with her. And she's like, I was like, oh cool, I was there on Sunday. I'm excited. She's like, well, do you want to go somewhere else? I'm like, you could have presented me with options and we'd still be going to Matteo.
Thank you.
And so it's nice that I got the redemption on getting the lasagna, which I love. And I mean, obviously like the whipped brie is amazing. What the other appetizer I got?
The whipped brie is another one of those places that we kind of came up with just messing around.
Yeah, just mess around in the kitchen. Things come together.
When we sat down, the first conversation you need to have about the menu is like, what are the places that I'm willing to bargain? Like, what am I willing to compromise, right? Yeah. Like, we sat down, we're like, you know what? I'm from Modena, he's from Venice. We're not going to have a cannoli on the menu because it's from Sicily, right? Yeah. And I was like, yeah, for sure, that's not going to happen. And then, we had a bunch of other stuff that I'm not willing to compromise on. And one of them was like, for dessert, I don't want to have a creme brulee because anywhere you go in Salt Lake, they have a creme brulee. Steakhouse, Italian restaurants. I mean, you don't understand. Is it American? Is it Italian? Is it French? I don't know. So I'm like, I'm not going to have a creme brulee. Just because we can make a pretty darn good creme brulee, but I'm not going to put it on the menu.
Got it.
And we're like, well, what if we just, instead of having creme brulee, we just make it a little bit more fun?
Yeah.
And so I love brie cheese. Like to me, it's just one of the best cheeses because the ways you can make brie taste amazing, they're unlimited. Like you can make brie taste amazing in a billion different ways. And so we're like, well, let's try to play around with it. And so we just put a bunch of stuff together, whip it all up, and a bunch of stuff is like 3 ingredients, including salt. And then we're like, yeah, let's caramelize it on top and let's add a crunchy sweet stuff. And then add some walnuts, which kind of give you a bite. And then the richness of the cheese with the crostini, which we make it a little extra salty just for the brie.
I did notice that, yeah.
Yeah. And so I think it all plays up pretty well because the crostini is basically a dip. So you got to pick up some of the sugar, which goes in contrast with the extra salty. And the extra salty, just a tad extra salty, that makes you want to have another bite.
Yeah.
So to me, the amount of times I've seen that play go out in the kitchen squeaky clean. It's amazing. I've seen a lot of people that literally just pull out a finger and just literally clean it with their finger.
So good.
And I'm like, you know what? Honestly, same.
Yeah. You're like, I get it. I do the same thing.
And it's one of those things that people have really enjoyed. And on the other end, you know, you also have dishes that people don't quite understand. Like we have a cannoli with carbonara. It's an appetizer. And it's just hard to explain.
Yeah.
So
you got to experience it.
You win some and you lose some.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Not everything can be the most loved thing on the menu.
Absolutely not. But that's why you change your menu every now and then.
Exactly.
You just try to play around more.
Exactly.
And it keeps it fun for us. It keeps it fun for the guest.
Yeah.
Because we have people, I mean, there's one of the jazz players that has been coming in literally every night since we opened.
That's amazing.
If the team is not traveling, he's in. Same time, same table, every night. And so, you know, for those people that come in, at least even like you already came in twice. You know, if you come in, you know, another couple more times, it starts to kind of not get boring. But of course, there's going to be always the staples on the menu. But it's like, I want to keep it fun.
Yeah.
Like,
At some point, you got to keep it fresh.
I want to be a twice a week restaurant, you know, like that's the whole point.
Yeah.
And so I just think it's fun to every now and then play with additions to the menu, which we don't call specials. It's additions to the menu.
Got it.
And yeah, so it's fun to play around with that.
I love that they keep it fresh. I love that because like one thing that always comes back to me is like, for example, you'll see a restaurant go out of business and someone will be like, it was such a good restaurant. Like what happened? I was like, when's the last time you were there? And they're like, oh, it's been like 2 or 3 years ago. I'm like, shocker. Like, and so it's like those places that the core quality staples on the menu have you coming back time after time after time, never get sick of it. Yeah. But then there's these additions to the menu or updates to the menu that, I mean, keep you coming back. And then next thing you know, someone's like, hey, did you like the whipped brie? Well, now they have this, other appetizer that's to die for.
Yeah. And I gotta, honestly, for that, I gotta give credit to our whole team. Like our whole team, it's absolutely phenomenal. Like I could have not asked for a better team to work with because, I mean, we have people in the kitchen that are salary, right? And their shift starts like, 1. The amount of days I go in at like 10:30 and I see people in the kitchen already working, they're salary.
Yeah.
Like, but to me, it's amazing. And, to try out new dishes, they all ask me, hey, do you mind if I try this new dish? Can I come in tomorrow at 9? I just want to try this new dish. And the amount of fun they're having, to me, is the most wonderful thing to watch. Because they truly enjoy the passion. They are, they're the real artists. They are the ones that really, truly enjoy the passion. Yeah. And then, of course, we all sit down together and have the conversation about can this go on the menu or not. But the amount of fun they're having, I think it's unbelievable.
I mean, that's when magic happens, is when people are motivated by passion instead of money, like just being like, well, my shift starts at 1 and I'm on South, so I'm not coming in. Instead of being like, hey, I'm so curious. I was working on this thing. I really have an idea. And being like, and to you to be able to say like, yeah, of course we want to innovate. Of course we want to develop our menu. Like, have fun. Keep me in the loop. Let me know if you have any questions. Would love to help with you. And
I always tell them, I give them absolute freedom. Like, do you want me to order this for you? Absolutely. I'll order it. Like, you want to just, the other day I sent someone home with like, I don't know, it was probably like $150 worth of ingredients. Yeah. Because they just wanted to try this plate. I'm like, yeah, just, if you want to try it here, come here. I'll buy whatever you want. Otherwise, you can just go home. And they were like, yeah, no, I'll just, try it home and then I'll bring it here and see what you think about it. And it was pretty darn good.
Yeah.
So
it's always nice when it ends up being pretty good.
Yeah.
Something to go on the menu. Because I also love, like, obviously your family came out here and they're very involved as well. I know your mom makes the focaccia every morning. Yep. I mean, do they all, kind of help out wherever they can, or does anybody have like specific things that they do?
Well, that's been the hardest part in the restaurant, trying to give my mom days off.
She's like you. She just wants to be in the action all the time.
I tried to give her a day off, and somehow I still find her in the restaurant. So I think one day either change the code of the door, or there's no way I'm ever going to give her a day off. Yeah. Because she comes in, and she just loves what she does. She goes in early in the morning because she's like, I don't want to be in everyone's way. Because, making bread for 150 people, it's a lot of bread.
It's a lot of production.
So she just goes in like 6:30, 7 every morning, and she makes the bread, and you make the dough, and then you gotta let it proof for a couple hours. So in that couple hours, she makes desserts as well. And then she loves to mess around with stuff, so she makes a few stuff that we don't have on the menu. But every now and then she makes some biscotti, which is always nice to send people home with a couple biscotti or for the coffee.
That's an Italian treat.
That's what she does mostly. But at the same time, she also keeps the books because she was the head of credit department for CBRE Italy.
Oh, interesting.
So she managed the books for like, I think 65 shopping malls all over Italy.
Wow.
So she's really good at books. So she keeps all the books in the afternoon, and the bakery in the morning is like, it's just the fun part.
Yeah.
My dad he's a jack of all trades. He does everything. He was the CFO for a company. And so he does all the inventory and all of that. But at the same time, he's the master of the bread. He's the one that is there during service and makes sure that the bread goes out at perfect temperature, perfect
quality inspection,
cutting,
make sure everything's ready to go.
So he's the one that is there during service. So if you come in during service, the one you're likely to see is my dad and my sister, because my mom just is at home or upstairs doing accounting.
Yeah.
And my sister is just around doing everything from folding napkins in the morning to helping clean to, during service, maybe we need like something from the storage or something, so she goes and grabs it. And so it's honestly been very, 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 very helpful. And also I've had folded clothes for the first time in 7 years, so that's
everybody wins.
Very nice part. Yeah.
That's amazing that it's such like a family affair and everybody gets involved and everybody wants to be involved and get to work together and work on all of that.
Well, to me, that's the most important part. Like I always say that if I didn't have my family here, I probably would not have opened the restaurant, because the first and foremost reason we do it is to stay all together, to spend time together. And when I say family is always first, I truly mean it. Like, to me, family is the most important part, because at least in my case, my dad and my mom are my best friends that always have my best interest in mind. You know, when you have a best friend that, you always have a best friend, but at the same time, if you both like the same girl, they might give you a little selfish advice, right? Yeah. My dad and my mom, parents are just the best friends that always give you the best advice in your interest. So I've been extremely thankful, because that's the only thing in life you don't choose.
Yeah, your family.
So I've been extremely blessed with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's so fun how all the experiences that you had in Italy here kind of brought you to all of that. Actually, one question I had. So my favorite dessert on the menu is the Banksy cheesecake. And I remember when I went the first time, because I'm not the biggest dessert at dinner, unless it's going out to nice dinner, then maybe 25% of the time I'll get it. But he was going over the menu and I hear Banksy cheesecake. And I kind of wasn't paying attention. I didn't want to be like, hey, wait, stop. What was that word in front of the cheesecake? Did I hear Banksy? And then we decided to get it. And I was like, wait, but what I don't understand how it can be a Banksy. Am I missing something here? And then it comes out. And I mean, as you know, it's I can't remember the name of the piece, but it's the girl with the
girl with a balloon.
Yeah, the girl with the heart balloon.
That's the name of the piece.
Oh, perfect. Well named.
And I think it's in Venice, funny enough.
Yeah. Partners home sweet home.
Yep.
So how did you come to be so passionate about Banksy or want to include him in the menu?
Well, I feel like there's a long and a short story. I'll tell you both.
Okay.
Short story is that I love Banksy and I love cheesecake. So I'm like, why can I not combine the two? Because I love Banksy and I love cheesecake. So
it's your menu.
I just love to have fun. And, if you have people that are skilled enough, sky's the limit.
Yeah.
And so it actually turned out to be pretty good. It took us a solid year and a half to come up with a way to make it all be together.
Yeah.
But
this is a pretty unique cheese. Anybody could do a pretty stereotypical cheesecake, but it is a very unique cheesecake.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen it anywhere else. Mm-mm. It's something that I'm very proud to say we came up with, and we use every sort of equipment to make it happen. But it's one of those things that I'm very, very thankful for. Long story is that I believe Banksy is really similar to our chefs. Banksy is one of the most talented people in our generation. He's so talented, and all of his artwork is extremely deep, has a lot of layers.
Yeah.
The complexity, the reasons, the placement, everything. But he's also one of the artists that we have no clue who he is.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, he's like a chef when you go to a restaurant. You have no clue who he is. You just see his art. You just see his art pieces. And so Banksy is just the real magic behind all of this art.
Mm-hmm.
And it's literally all of our chefs. That's what they do. They spend years and years of sweat and tears to make everything go perfect, but nobody ever sees them.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to pay a little tribute to our chefs. And
yeah, nice tip of the hat to that. I love that.
That's just one of those layers of complexity that a lot of people are not even going to question. Oh, it's pretty, right?
Totally.
But if anyone asks for the explanation, that's the real explanation.
Love it. Because I've always been a Banksy fan. So one of my favorite documentaries is Exit Through the Gift Shop. which is, I mean, because like everybody knows that Banksy, oh, this art showed up, like this is so cool. But like when you see some of the things he's done, the level he's been able to execute it, still maintain anonymity and not get caught is mind blowing.
Absolutely.
And then on top of, I mean, and then I also have a Banksy like coffee book table I got when I was in Miami at the Waywood Walls, and it's like always been a fan because like for that exact thing, we don't know who he is, but it's does all of these amazing things and
absolutely
political messages sometimes like in very dangerous places, but
absolutely, but it never gets caught.
Yeah,
and so that's the real reason we put it on the menu.
Totally. Yeah. No, that's a really cool story. I like that. I like that layer of that extra layer behind it.
Yeah.
So I mean, what's next for Matteo? Or do you mean just kind of owning the craft and going from there? Do you want more restaurants? Do you want bigger space?
Well, when I wanted to open up a restaurant, I didn't want to open up a restaurant.
Okay.
I have another concept in mind, which is a little bit more affordable, very high end, very quality, but a little bit more affordable, a little bit more casual.
Mm-hmm.
But in order to do that, you need to have very specific places because that concept is only going to work in a very specific places.
Got it.
And in order to have those very specific places, you need to have a name. You need to, people need to know who you are.
Yes.
Because otherwise, I'm not going to give you a prime piece of real estate to just a guy with a good idea.
Right.
Because, you never know the execution. So I tried to get a good piece of land for the last 3 years, 4 years. And after a while, the last land, I was like, I got no clue who you are, so there's not a chance in hell you're going to come here. I'm like, okay, bet. And so I was like, you know what? I'll open a restaurant the fine dining restaurant was going to be the last piece on the cake.
Okay.
It was going to be just the last cherry on top of the cake because everyone in the restaurant world can tell you that fine dining, you don't make money.
Mm-hmm.
Like, look at every Michelin restaurant. Next to it, they have a bistro. The bistro is what actually makes money. Like Danny Mayer, he had 11 Madison, best restaurant in the world. He opened Shake Shack to make money. Any restaurateur can tell you that fine dining does not make money.
Yeah,
like
so much more of an art than it is a business.
Yeah. So that was just gonna be the piece on top of the cake. That was just gonna be, I'm here for fun.
Mm-hmm.
But I just ended up flipping the cake, just French cake.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah. You just start from the bottom. And, in France, they call it tarte tatin is when they start from the marmalade and apple on the bottom, and you build a cake on top of it.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're going to do. Our end goal is to have very high quality, very affordable, very good. And I believe Italian food is one of those very few places one of those very few things that can happen. And so it's one of the very few places where this can start.
Yeah.
Nowadays, because it's like Danny Mayer started at New York a few years ago. But Shake Shack is, the reason he started it was I want to have a $5 burger made with the same cut of beef than a $200 steak.
Yeah.
Just instead of throwing it in the trash, I'm just going to use it for the burger because that brings joy and togetherness.
Yes.
So that is my thought. That's my visual for Matteo in the next 10 years.
No, I love that.
I'm Matteo restaurant, not Matteo person. Yeah. I have this thing with my friend that he calls me, the person, Teo, and the restaurant is Matteo. But so that's where I see ourselves in 10 years, having something a little bit more affordable, a little bit more, very high quality, kind of like in broader terms, similar to what Tsunami is doing here in Utah. It's good sushi. It's, a little bit more affordable than other high-end sushi. It's always great quality. You might not find all the fancy fish, like, you're never going to find probably barracuda, but it's always very good.
Yes.
And it's always reliable. It's always, for everyone.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my goal in 10 years.
Hey, if I get more access to more food from you and being able to get together with people more and have that bring us together, I'm all sorts of on board with that.
I think the next 2 years, I always joke, I have an ankle bracelet at the restaurant. The next couple of years, I just want to be there because that's really what sets the tone.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I don't want to give or taken all the people that are coming through the door now because, the restaurant business, you never know what's happening tomorrow.
Yeah, totally.
But I think for the next couple of years, I'll be very involved in the restaurant. And then little by little, whenever I can at some point start this new idea, I think it's going to be fun. But, the restaurant still is and still stays our priority.
Yeah.
And, that's the first and foremost.
Yeah. You got to protect the core and the business itself.
Absolutely.
Because if you stop watching the boiling water on one and try to focus on some sort, trying to think of like reducing a sauce over there, then all of a sudden your water's overboiling and then your sauce gets too reduced. So focus on one, do it well. And then once you get that in a good place, then grow and keep going from there.
Yep, exactly. And that's exactly, I don't want to have in Italy we say, I don't want to do the step longer than the leg, so just want to one step at a time and, see where it takes it. But again, I'm 27, so I got all the time in the world.
You got all the time in the world.
Yep.
So outside of cooking, what else do you like to do in your spare time around Salt Lake, or what keeps you here?
I would like to have spare time. But
one day.
No, I think Salt Lake is the only state that I know of that you can ski in the morning, golf in the afternoon, and just work at night.
Yeah.
So in the ideal world, I love to ski in the morning. I love to play golf. I'm not very good at it, but I love to play golf because just
Same.
freedom. You're just out there, just having a good time. I still like to swim every now and then.
I was going to imagine you still.
Yeah, I don't do as much as I
wanted
wanted to, but I still really enjoy swimming, and I just really enjoy traveling. That's one of the things that I want to have more time for.
Yeah.
It's traveling,
especially when it's like, so when I travel, I've come to terms that it's really just like eating, which is the best way to travel.
Yeah.
And so, but it's so nice for you where it's like, if you get to travel, it's like market research or learning or research and development where you're like, yeah, we definitely need to go here because I have to learn how they do this or see this.
But if you think about it, a lot of the stuff on our menu comes from traveling.
Yeah.
A lot of the wines on our menu comes from traveling. Like a lot of people ask me, why do you have all the Vieti on the menu? I'm like, well, I was a Vieti. I know how they make the wine. I know how much passion they put in there. And it's something that I feel comfortable putting on our menu because I know we share the same core values. Mm-hmm. And so traveling really opens your mind. Yeah. Like there's a few things. Goal for 2024 is to have a Matteo brunch because nobody has nobody has an Italian brunch, period. And I think that's our goal for 2024. And when I went home last year, I had this asparagus with a white chocolate hollandaise that I still dream of. It was just unbelievably good.
I will be there for the first brunch spot to have my white chocolate asparagus hollandaise. Yeah,
it was just unbelievable. So I think that's one of the things that really makes you want to travel more and more. It just being with an open mind, and sometimes it sucks, sometimes it's amazing. Yeah, we just cherish the good times and forget the bad ones.
Exactly. Take the good, leave the bad, and enjoy it all together. So I want to wrap up with two last questions. First is, if you could have anybody on the Small Lake City podcast, who would you want to hear their story?
Oh, that's a great one. Oh my gosh. Can I get back to that later? I want to give you a really good answer. So ask the other question and then I'll give you the answer.
And then lastly, if anyone's looking to find more information about Matteo or find you on social or try to get a reservation, what's the best place to find that?
On social is Matteo SLC, Matteo SLC, like Salt Lake City. You can email me all the time. My email is Matteo@MatteoSLC. Our website, it's either joyandtogetherness.com or MatteoSLC.com. It redirects you both to the same place. And to make a reservation, we are on Open Table. You can call into the restaurant. I'm making a point of returning every call. Mm-hmm. Sometimes people call like 7:30 in the morning. I'm like, I was here till like 2:30 last night.
Yeah, I'm not
There's
here
not
to
a chance I'm at 7.
No.
But yeah, so those are probably the best ways. Our phone number is 385-549-1992. So if anyone wants to give it a call. But usually email is the best or just...
And what's the address for mine? I don't know.
It's 439 East, 900 South.
Yeah, just right off the northwest corner of Liberty Park.
Yep, and I always say it's funny because we have a parking right across the street. And I always tell people, just park in and then you're facing a harsh decision. Do I want to eat at the best Greek restaurant in town, or do I want to eat at the best Italian restaurant in town? I'm a little biased on the Italians.
Yeah, I was gonna say you might have a little bias. I do need. I haven't been to Manoli's in a while, and I do need to go back.
Yeah, I love Manoli's. They're just so nice, and they're really good people, and their brunch is absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I remember there was one time it was the first time I ever went there. Went with some friends because they got a gift card for birthday or Christmas or something, and I'd never heard of it, and we went. It was, I mean, phenomenal meal, and have a couple bottles of wine, and
yep, they have a really good wine list.
Great wine list. And so as I'm leaving, I go and I see Joe Ingles, one of the old jazz players, on the patio, and I'm drunk enough, and I'm like, Joe, what's up, man? Keep doing good job. Like, I can't remember what I said. It wasn't the most shining moment of my life, but I remember my friend's wife, she's like, how do you always know everybody? I was like, to be very, very clear, I do not know him. I know of him. He does not know me.
Joe is super cool. He came to the restaurant, I think, like 3 weeks ago when the Magic were in town.
Yeah.
With another friend of mine that he works in the front office. And he was just so, like, he was super nice. He had the lasagna, going back to that.
Of course.
And then in his Australian accent, which I'm not going to try to imitate, he comes up to me, he's like, bro, your lasagna fucks. And he's like, you know, I thought I wouldn't regret being in Orlando after Utah, but damn, you're making me regret it.
That's what a review. You're like tears in your
man.
eyes, like this is exactly what I need to do.
Well,
today.
to me, going back to that moment, those moments are absolutely mind-blowing. Like, we've been open for not even 2 months. And I learned English watching the NBA because I was a little bit of a smart ass, part of my French. So I never really learned English because in Italy, you have a lot of sub-teachers for English. And I was always the guy that thought I was smarter than anyone else. And my goal was just to cheat my way out of English because I'm like, you know, teacher's going to see me for 2 weeks and never get in their life. So I'll be all right. Yeah. And then I graduated high school. I'm like, well, okay, I really want to go to the US for school, but my English is like, my name is Matteo. That was my English. And I was like, okay, what do I like to do? I like to watch basketball. So I woke up like 3-4 in the morning for like a year and a half straight just to watch NBA and listen to it in English so I could improve my English. So I came to the US. I understood everything. I just couldn't speak. So I looked autistic for like a solid 6 months.
Just nodding at people. Like,
like I understand everything. Just I got me a solid minute to formulate my sentence, but then I'll be there with you.
You're doing a lot better now.
Thank you. But going back to that, we've had a lot of people come in. Like we had the Trailblazer buy out the whole restaurant. We had Coach Frank Vogel come in the restaurant. You know, there's a lot of the players. I mean, by now, probably like 80% of the team came in for dinner at least once or twice. Yeah. You know, to me, that's absolutely incredible. Like I would have never expected that.
Yeah, well, because you have to like think about everything that has to happen for all of these things to happen. Is first you have to have probably someone from the Jazz come in and be good enough where they're like, go back to the locker, be like, hey, have you guys been to Matteo yet? Like, go. Yeah. And then have that rumor to like other teams when they come into town. So the Trailblazers are like, wait, there's this new, we haven't had that. Like, we're going to rent it out for the entire, like, and just where it keeps going and just grows and grows.
Well, and this all happened in 2.5 months. Because if you think about it, we opened on September 14th and I didn't do any marketing. Like,
I wanted to ask, but I wasn't going to ask. Like, no, just all word of mouth.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at our social media, that should tell you enough about how bad I am at managing that thing. I'm at the point where I'm like, you know, I love social media, but we had like 1,500 followers before I even had a post. So,
like, hello, everybody's here waiting for me?
I'm like, I don't know what to do. You know, when you're like freeze, you're like, I don't know what to do. Yeah. And we got our business license on September 13th. Just out of the blue, because we had the inspections done and I didn't expect they would all go well. Yeah. So I'm like, you know, we had a full staff, but I told the guys, hey man, we might open tomorrow, we might open in 2 weeks. You never know. Yeah. You know, when these things happen, it was my first time, so you never know how it goes. And being used to Italy, bureaucracy takes forever. Yes. So they gave me the business license on the 13th. I'm like, wait, we good to go? Can we open? Like, yeah, you good? I'm like, okay. So I called our staff. I'm like, hey guys, we're opening tomorrow. We all did all the training. Like we had staff on from like August 21st. That was our first day. So we had like solid 3.5 weeks of training, like 9 to 5.
Yeah, so they're all ready to go. Just you didn't think it was going to be like, tomorrow?
Yeah.
Right, cool.
So we opened. No liquor license, nothing. We just opened. And so, I just literally opened the door the first day and it's been absolutely amazing ever since. So I just think word of mouth has been absolutely amazing, because otherwise I don't see why people come to a restaurant, because there's no way you see it anywhere else, because we don't do any marketing, we don't do anything. And as far as I can, I would like to keep it that way, because it's just genuine.
Yeah.
And I love to do genuine stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's just how we open.
So fun. No, I mean, I think you did exactly right. And like, whenever anybody says, oh, I mean, it works really well, word of mouth. I'm like, to me, whenever I hear word of mouth, I just hear quality product, because it means someone experienced it and they're like, oh my God, this is so good, I have to tell someone, and just like continues to perpetuate itself.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And for the marketing, I think at some point we will do it.
Yeah.
I just haven't had the time yet to sit down and actually have the conversation with someone, because I believe the marketing is one of the most important aspects of the business, but given it's the most important aspect of the business, I want to give it the time and the energy it deserves.
Fair.
So we would much rather not do it than do it wrong.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. And it's especially like, it's not like you're struggling to fill seats, or everything's going well enough that you don't have to focus on other things besides product.
Yeah, but at the same time, everything is, as I told you earlier, restaurant business, you know what's happening today, you don't know what's happening tomorrow.
That's absolutely true.
So, of course, we're filling the seats, but also it's November and December. Like, if you're empty in December, it's a really bad sign for a restaurant.
Yeah.
Then January's going to come, and then you never know, then, summer's going to come. It's always, you never know tomorrow. So you always want to enjoy it while it's there, and you always want to be thankful while it's there. And then, you want to also put the foundations for the future while it's going well. Because if you wait till it's not going well, it's way too late.
Oh, yeah. Then you're already halfway drowned before you can even do anything about it.
Yep. So, yeah, going back to the question, who I want to see on the podcast, Small Lake Podcast. Wow. I have a lot of names in mind. One extremely, extremely interesting person that I mentioned earlier, I think, is Tamara. She's the mind behind Takashi. Okay. She's Takashi's wife. Okay. She's a very good friend. And she's the person, to me, that has the wildest realizable ideas in Salt Lake City. Like what they did with the post office next door to Takashi.
That's my favorite, one of my top 3 favorite bars in Salt Lake.
She designed it herself.
Of course she did.
Yeah, I'm like, really? Like, what they do with that place, to me, it's absolutely mind-blowing. Yeah. And I got to talk to Takashi a few times. They come to a restaurant at least once a week. And I told to Takashi and pick his brain a few times. And the craft behind their place is just absurd. Yeah. Like, you see a piece of fish in front of you, but like the way they source the fish and everything, to me, is mind-blowing. And also, she's just one of the most interesting people I know. She's one of those people that she could sit down, talk for hours, and I would be there and listen. Yeah. Just listen. Interesting. So if that's one person, and the other person is Jonas Persson. He's the swimming head coach at the University of Utah.
Interesting. Yeah.
He was a 2008 Olympic finalist.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that.
He went to University of Tennessee, and I think is another really, really interesting person too.
No, definitely. I actually grew up swimming and diving a lot. Okay. And the pools at the University of Utah, I think it's in the Hyper building. Yep. But spent a lot of time there growing up, jumping off the rafters into the pools, all that fun stuff. So it would be fun to bring it all back to there.
Yeah, I think those two would be very interesting people.
I agree. No, thanks. Thank you so much. And Matteo, thank you so much for the time. I'm so excited to see what else comes from you, not only at Matteo, but your other endeavors. And I'm excited to just keep going and fall more in love with the restaurant and the food, and enjoy the togetherness and joy that it brings.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me on. And I really appreciate you spending time with me. And really looking forward to see you there. I'm there 7 days a week. So
yes.
That's what I tell people. I'm sorry if you enjoy the food, you're stuck with me because I'm here 7 days a week. So if you enjoy the food, don't enjoy my company. I'm sorry.
No, glad you're there. Glad the food's there, and glad you're in control of it all, because it's going well, and I'm so excited for the future.
Thank you so much. I look forward to see you all there soon.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Salt Lake City Podcast. Don't forget to like, follow, review, subscribe, and share this episode with your friends. And we'll catch you next week. We'll see you there.